Welcome to Barre Chat. That's where it's at. I'm Lexi.
I'm Bianca.
And I'm Becca.
And we're chatting all things dance. Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about dance teachers, the good ones and the not so good ones.
Today's episode, we're going to be talking about our own personal experiences and also giving our own opinions on what a good teacher is and what a bad teacher is, in case you're experiencing the same thing. In that case, you should see a medical professional immediately. That was a bad joke.
Let's all determine what a good dance teacher is. I would say that through my experience with dance teachers, anytime I've really liked or admired a teacher, they're very attentive to corrections and notes to the individual.
So do you like corrections?
I do, because if I'm in dance to get better, if the teacher's not correcting me, I feel like either I'm doing it completely wrong or they just don't care.
Do you think that there's a time though that like the correction crosses a line where it's more of like a
insult?
Like, yeah.
Yes. And I have experienced that a lot as well. And I talk about it on my TikTok page all the time, as I'm sure some of you know. For the good dance teachers, I think that giving notes is super important, giving feedback, getting to know your dancers in the room, because everybody is so different. So if you can kind of, like do a little mental scan of each different dancer, especially if you're seeing them week to week, I think that that is really important for their training and their, overall growth.
No, that's great. I think for me, one of the biggest traits for a dance teacher is they care about you not only in the studio, but outside of the studio as well. Mm-hmm. So when you're coming to dance and they see that you're having a bad day or you just seem off, like they would know because they genuinely care about you as a person.
They're attentive.
And they're also excited for you things outside of the studio. So if you came to class and you were like, oh, I got cast in the drama club musical, they're genuinely excited for you. Like a teacher that cares about you inside the studio as well as outside, I think is so important. And I was lucky enough that I had a good amount of those teachers, especially like near the end of my high school experience.
What about college?
It's hard to say just because of COVID. I didn't make that many like special relationships or even like bad relationships with some of my teachers. I would say that like, honestly, as a dance minor at school, I've noticed that the teachers are not as attentive towards us because we're not the ones who are, or at least they think
it's not your focus.
Right. That's the thing. They don't think that we're pursuing dance, but it's like, I would still love to pursue dance. And I feel like they don't give me the time and attention and like give me the corrections that they give to the dance majors because for them, it's like, like they're not spending all their time trying to major in dance and make that their profession. So why would I give them the corrections?
Do you take classes with the majors?
Oh yeah, we're like combined.
Yeah. See, I would see how that would be because usually when it's minor classes, they have separate minor classes. That's what I would think that would happen.
That's the thing. We have separate minor classes, but we also, some of those classes are major requirements. So I've been like with some minors, I've been with some of the majors. It's kind of just like wherever the schedule lies. But it is frustrating as well because they don't allow me to take as many classes as the majors take. So I remember like talking to my dance advisor, asking her like, oh, like I saw this, and this on the schedule. Like I'd love to take that. And she's like, you can't. And it's like, but
because they get the priority.
Because they get the priority and they get the fun training.
We should make an entire episode about like dancing in college and like the way different programs are and like how they can be messed up and stuff.
Becca, like what is something that you admire about dance teachers? Like what's a good trait that you think they should have? I know that's a tough question.
Yeah, because I like specifically I'm like thinking about like a group of like teachers that I personally really like. So I'm like trying to think about why I like them. And honestly, I feel like when they listen to their students, that is like really important. Like telling them like is just as important as listening. Like if the students come one day and say that they're really tired, like they just went to a dance convention on the weekend and they come in Monday classes and they're like exhausted and the teacher just is like, okay, and just completely disregards them.
Right.
Obviously that's like not a teacher that cares about you at all.
I understand that. And also, like, I guess kind of segueing into like the negative side of dance teachers, teachers that don't take into account what their dancers need is super toxic.
Absolutely. And you made me think of like dance teachers that choreograph to the dancer as opposed to choreographing to themselves. And it's like, I love having dance teachers that see who I am as a dancer. And they're like, oh, like she specializes in like these couple of things. Like I'm going to add that into the dancer. You know what? Like this move isn't reading well on her body the way it's reading on mine. Let me change that. Because there's some teachers that it's like, just try to figure out how to make it work. And it's like, but you see,
good on me. Why
this looks good on me. Why doesn't it look good on you? And it's like, but you choreographed it to your body.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back into like being a good teacher and being receptive enough to say, I know it looks good on me as the teacher, but the students dance differently. So let me shift it as a professional.
Right.
Yeah. So that could be good
rather
or bad.
than making it the student's problem.
Yeah. Right. Because then they're going to go on not liking how
and they're not going to feel confident.
That's another thing.
It's a spiral.
Especially when the teacher makes it clear that like, oh, that move doesn't look good on you. You need to fix it. Why would I feel confident doing it? Like I'll fake it as much as I can, but knowing that you don't like how it looks on me, I'm not going to like how it looks on me either.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What are your guys' opinions on teachers like building up a student and how they do that? Like I have a lot of friends that personally like teachers to be hard on them during classes because it makes them work harder. But for me personally, I like it when a teacher like builds me up and says, yeah, you can do it, and gives me like a lot of compliments, because I feel like in my experience, I didn't have like a lot of compliments in dancing growing up.
Yeah.
But I felt like when I did get compliments, that made me want to work harder.
I think it depends on the teacher's style and how old they are too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like the older teachers, you know, like your typical Russian ballet teacher who's like over 60, you know, they are in a different generation.
Right.
So they're not, their teachers didn't compliment them.
Right.
So they're not used to it.
So they think that that's just how
they are.
Exactly. To make a good dancer.
Then you have younger contemporary teachers who are like, this is a safe space and that's great.
Yeah.
You know, there's like, everybody's a little bit different, but there's totally opposite ends of the spectrum as well. Like, I think it's important to have a balance.
I agree.
I personally like having corrections given to me. And I also like it when the teacher says, thank you for applying that. That was really good. Or that leg was great.
Sometimes you don't know whether you're applying the correction or not because you're just so like thinking about the movements and stuff. And although you may think you're applying the corrections, sometimes you're not applying the corrections. So for the teachers to just be like very communicative about it is very important.
Communication is super important.
I agree. For me, I would say as much as I love like receiving compliments and it helps build me up as a dancer, I like earning my compliments. Yeah. So especially when you get a compliment from a teacher that doesn't compliment often, it means 10 times more because you're like, wow, I had to have done something for them to think like, you know what, like let me tell them, let me let them know that they're doing a great job. Yeah. So I think I would prefer that more just because it's more rewarding.
Growing up, I had a dance teacher that wouldn't give compliments necessarily, but she would be like, that wasn't terrible.
And you would take that as a compliment, right? Yeah.
You'd be like, thank you so much, Sylvia.
That would make your day and you think about it for the rest of the week.
She'd be like, not bad. And I was like, not good. Like,
I did it. Go me.
It wasn't terrible.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Would you guys say that you had overall a great experience with dance teachers or a bad experience or like half and half? What would you guys say?
I personally think that if you have 100 dance teachers that are amazing, but one of them isn't good, it's that one that gets in your head.
Absolutely.
Or like,
I had one of those too.
Yeah.
It's really, even past dance, I think that good people and bad people, the bad people are always the ones that stay in your head for the rest of your life. You know, that one comment that they'll say that just sticks with you.
Right.
Like a dagger.
I have had so many toxic dance teachers in my life. I don't know how they all came to me. But
they some gravitated.
Towards your terrible technique.
Exactly. That's why. But like, you know, a lot of the things that they said to me, it's stuck with me to this day from years and years ago. And whether they meant it or whether they thought that it was mean or not, like, you have to be aware as a teacher and self-aware enough to say, like, these are moldable students and I have to be mindful.
Teachers,
you have to teach them. We're not reprimanding them and scolding them and pushing them down because nobody's going to feel comfortable to dance in a setting like that.
Right.
At least I never did.
I don't think teachers understand how much of a like difference they make in the student's life, I cared more about my dance teacher's opinions of me than I did about my own parents or my own teachers at school.
Absolutely.
You spend so many hours at the studio growing up that those are the adults you're spending the most time with.
Yes.
And those are the people like you value your opinion so much. And I feel like there are dance teachers that take advantage of that because they know that the student just wants to please them. So they're going to keep asking for more and more and just like draining their students.
But I also had a couple teachers that I genuinely feel wanted to be mean. Like they were like that to everybody.
Yeah, there's some people that you could just tell that like
they're
dance
bitter.
teaching is not for them and they're just miserable when they're there. And I had a studio owner who constantly just knocked everyone down. And it was like, I mean, obviously I felt targeted because it's me and I'm the one receiving like all these insults towards me, but like I think everyone in the studio felt that way.
Right.
And I noticed that when we got a new studio owner transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade, that's when I really started to blossom as a dancer and I started to get more confident and I started to actually succeed and be proud of myself and watch videos and be like, wow, like I'm actually pretty good.
Interesting.
And it's really interesting because I kind of just realized that when we were talking that once we switched studio owners is once I started to
get better
and feel better and love coming to dance, because there was a time where I was literally going to leave my studio because it got so bad.
Yeah.
And I stuck it out because we're transitioning studio owners and it got so much better.
Yeah.
So
I think that when I look at my training and look like over the past few years, I look back at the times like when I've like excelled the most and gotten the most better. And it's always in the classes of the teachers that like believed in me the most.
Oh yeah.
Even like recently and like going to school and then like having a semester where I'm taking from the same teachers. Over the semester, I've gotten better in the specific classes that I felt like the teachers actually like wanted to push and were invested in me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, oh sorry, no, you can go.
I just was, because you were talking about how as you got older, you felt more confident. I actually kind of feel a little bit opposite to that.
Really?
Because when I think as children and kids, you have such big self-esteem and you think the world of yourself, which is amazing. But the older you get, the more people have the opportunity to tear you down.
Yeah.
That's true too.
And me having so many negative teachers, I think that put a lot of weight on me. And so, you know, like as I got older, there was a point where I was just kind of like, I feel like I'm actually not that good. I feel like maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this, you know, and I had all those thoughts go through my head. But then you kind of just have to step back for a second and say, is that just how they're perceiving me? Is that their opinion of me? I know that I love doing this.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I don't want to be doing anything else. So I'm going to continue.
I had a situation, I think I told you guys like over the like a few months ago where a teacher made like a really rude comment to me and it was a teacher I'd never taken from before, and he's a little on the older side, so everyone was kind of like making that as an excuse when I would like tell them about it, but
there's no excuse for something that they say though.
Exactly.
Like they said it because they meant it.
Yeah.
And nothing should be, oh, like, well, they said this because of this. They said it because of that. No, they still said it.
Yeah.
Right. No matter how old you are, no matter what the context was, no matter what the environment like was, like they still said it. So
And words have a heavy meaning to
especially
them.
Can I say what it was?
Do you
If you want to?
Yeah. Okay.
I
so
can share next.
Yeah. Okay.
I can also share.
I love starting this one.
Yay!
I'm so glad. We're really spilling the tea now. Okay, so it was a class with a teacher that I'd never taken from before.
This was this year, you said?
Yeah, it was this past semester.
Ooh.
And it was like an advanced ballet class. It was just called advanced because it was in the 2-hour block, like the 2-hour elective block. So it just was an advanced elective.
Okay.
So I'd never taken the class before, and it was the kind of class where a lot of the students have been taking from him since they came to the school, just because they built relationships with him and stuff. And
So they were all comfortable with him.
yeah, and he knew them.
But
I was
you
the only
weren't.
one in the class, who he didn't know. So we were in the class and he was giving me a lot of corrections at the beginning. And I was like, wow, this is really good. I'm like really excited. And we got in the center and we were doing something and he was giving me a correction like about my core.
Yeah.
And I know like, obviously I need to like work on my core. I know that. But he kind of said it in a way saying like, oh, you need to make sure that you're able to dance and able to do this stuff because this is an advanced class and I need to make sure that you can keep up with the rest of the dancers.
Ugh.
I remember you telling me
Yeah,
this.
same.
This was like what, 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember this.
You were really upset.
Yeah, I literally
Rightfully
ran out of the
so.
class crying. I
so
dropped the
messed
class
up.
immediately because I was, and after that.
Oh, you did drop?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I dropped it immediately. It was like the last day I could
the
drop
last
it.
like withdrawal day.
And I did it like
Good.
as fast as possible. After that, my confidence went like down the drain.
Yeah.
For like the next like few months.
Right.
Like
It really affects you.
yeah,
It
because
does.
especially it was in a style like I did a lot of ballet when I started dancing and
Yeah.
stuff. That was like the style that I felt so comfortable in. And to hear a comment about that
Mm-hmm.
was just like so like demeaning. And he could have just been like, work your core.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So
And it's kind of like he probably thought he could pick on you because you were a new student.
yeah.
You know, whatever he thought in his weird little head, but
It's also
it's not
crazy.
okay.
He said that and he probably doesn't even remember it.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not thinking about it. And here you are months later still thinking about
Yeah.
that comment because
That's
it
right.
affected you so much. And he just moved on.
Totally.
And probably made that comment to many other people.
And so many dance teachers are like that.
Right. They
They
don't
don't- they
realize
don't.
that their words
Yeah.
mean something, especially when you are there as an aspiring dancer to learn.
They're impactful words.
Okay, so Becca, since you shared the comment that really hurt your
so
feelings,
bravely shared.
you are so raw and authentic with the audience. I will share the comment that really hurt me. This was in 8th
Oh my God,
grade.
this is so fun. I love
just like trauma
unboxing
dumping.
trauma.
I know. So this was, and I told you we danced at like the Minskoff Theater. That's like the Lion King stage. So this was like supposed to be a really fun trip. I was super excited to just like go with like all my dance friends. We were staying in New York for a couple days. We got to perform on the stage. We took, I'm trying to remember. I think we took a class with like the dancers from Aladdin.
Uh-huh.
So that was really fun too. And we were all in the same hotel and I was in a room. And since I was only like 13 or 14, there was like one dance teacher in each of the rooms. So I had one dance teacher in my room for the first night. And then I had another dance teacher in my room for the other 3 nights. So in between like that switch, we didn't have a dance teacher, but we had a combining room with the studio owner, the original studio owner, and a couple other girls. And I was talking to one girl and we were talking about like the dance teacher that was coming in. And one of us made a comment like, oh, I'm not sure if she likes me or something. And then the studio owner pops out and she was like, oh, do you want to know what all the teachers think of you? And we were both like,
Wow.
what?
That's
And she was like, come in here.
unprofessional.
It was, she's a
Yeah.
very unprofessional studio owner, this first one. So I'm very glad that like owner. Yeah.
She was the owner.
She was the owner for like, I don't know,
Oh
20,
my
30 years. I don't even
goodness.
remember. I think it was like 30 years.
She was grandfathered in.
Yes.
Maybe
It
she
was
had
her
a little-
studio. It was her studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they got rid of her?
She decided to retire.
Thank
Decided.
goodness.
Yeah, I don't
Before
know.
she got fired.
Right. So she was like, oh, do you guys want to know what we think about you? And I was like, I don't know if I want to hear this.
Yes and
and
no.
she calls us. Yeah, it's like yes and no. And again, like I was in 8th grade, so I don't remember everything that she said. But the worst comment she said to me was, "You will never be in the senior dance company because you think that you're here, but you're actually down here. And if you can't see my hand motion, I'm like." She put her hand all the way up here, and then she was like, "But you're actually down here," and like pointed to the
Below the
floor.
bar.
And then she said to the other girl, she was like, "You're a slightly worse tap dancer than Lexi." So I was like, "Is that a compliment?"
Oh.
But the
My bad
It's
too.
like she's roasting you.
she said so many mean things in that moment. But the worst one was, "You think you're up here and you'll never be, but you're actually down here and you'll never be like on the senior dance company."
That's so awful.
And it was traumatizing for me to hear that. And
Yeah.
that was
From
in the
someone
beginning
you look up to.
from someone, even though like I never really liked her, I still looked up to her and respected her as a
Yeah.
teacher because she was my studio owner and I've been
course.
there since I was 2 years old. And that kind of just like
shot you down.
really ruined me. And I remember calling my mom crying and I was like, this isn't fun. And it was in the beginning of the trip too. And it kind of just like ruined it. And I remember after she left and she came back, I think it was like my senior year recital. She came to the recital and was like, "Lexi, I'm so proud of you. Like you've grown
Yeah,
into such a
no.
wonderful dancer." And I was like, "I hope you know that's not because of you. Like I've grown in like despite
Good.
you."
Yeah.
Like, and it was kind of like a full circle moment for me to see like, wow, look how much I've accomplished when I'm not getting teared down all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, do you think that you got closure from it, or do you think that sometimes you still think about it and it like affects you?
I still think about it and it affects me just knowing
And how
how
many
years ago was this?
it's in the back of my head because it's like someone, even though like I was at a very different level of talent, someone looked at me and said, you will never be good enough.
Yeah.
That's what she said to me.
And how many years ago was this?
This was in 8th grade or going into 8th grade.
I can't imagine looking at a student in the face and saying something like that when
Not
they
even at
are
the
the ones
studio.
that are looking up to you. Like, why would you take that and then just like throw it away?
Right.
Things like that, like these stories sound like we're making it up, but like we're telling you this to show you like that this actually happens. And I'm
As
sure,
a dancer, I'm sure you probably know.
exactly. And I think the reason why we're sharing these stories isn't just to like trauma dump onto you, but because we want to make you guys like, the whole point of this podcast is to make you all feel comfortable and feel more like
You can relate to this.
relate. Because
You may have seen videos of us dancing and you were like, oh, like their life seems so great. They're
Yeah.
dancers, everything's good. But
We're so perfect.
we're so perfect.
and
No,
we
but
might be perfect, but we have our bad days.
we also have trauma.
Right.
And we
And we've
cry.
also experienced it. Yeah, this dance teacher made me cry so many times. Like the amount of times that I went home to my mom and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do the studio
I
anymore.
totally relate.
Like
I totally relate.
It's awful. And I'm so glad that I stuck it out. And even like after she made that comment, within like a year or two, I was teaching dance in that studio. And in the back of my mind, I was always like, never be like her. Be the opposite. Be what you wanted to hear as a dancer growing up.
Right.
And I feel like that's why I had such a good relationship with so many of my students. And even when I come back during the summer and teach classes, they're so excited for Miss Lexi to come.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Miss Lexi's subbing today. Like, I'm so excited. And that's because I treated them the way that I would have loved to be treated by that teacher
Treat
growing
others
up.
the way you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cheesy, but
it's true. It's
so
cheesy
true.
for a reason because it's popularized because it's true.
Right.
Yeah. I literally have so many negative experiences with teachers.
yes.
I can't narrow it down. But I guess I'll just start off with one from college. Not too intense.
Wait, quickly before you say,
Yeah.
do you feel like most of like the toxic dance teachers happen in college? Like, did you have any experiences
Oh no,
before?
all through. Yeah.
All through. Okay.
I would
Yeah.
say
Same.
like
awesome.
yeah, my whole life.
Great.
Yeah,
Please-
really.
please share.
Really great.
I'm so glad that it was like all around the board and
Yeah.
not like centrally
Yeah.
located. That's
So
very
I guess the
important.
question is, have you ever had a good experience?
I think there might have been one or two. Yeah.
Like, I can count on my hand. Yeah.
So when I was in college, I was taking like a jazz class, as you do. And we were doing like an across the floor one day. It was just like a simple drag step, whatever. And right before we put the music on, the teacher looked to me and she's like, Bianca, everything that you do looks like ballet. And I was like, okay, that's not necessarily what I want to hear in a jazz class, because she's not the first person that's told me that. A lot of teachers are always like, you're just a ballet dancer. You know, that's all
that's
you are.
frustrating to
That's
hear.
all you look like. When I was literally mirroring the choreography exactly how she did it. And I like to think of myself as a versatile dancer. So I
are.
try.
No, and you are.
Well, thank you. But I try to mimic movements and arms and styles as they should be.
Right.
So
Maybe it's because you had technique. She was just a little bit confused.
well, she didn't like me,
she
period.
mixed up technique with ballet.
This teacher didn't like me, bottom line, but
Yeah.
that one comment just annoyed me because she said it in front of the whole class. And at
And
that
then
point,
they put you in the box too.
yeah, they do.
Right, it put
It's
that thought
the-
in their head, yeah.
The students listen to the teachers. That's the one thing.
That's weird.
So yeah, so they will whatever the teacher thinks, that's what they're going to think of you.
Yeah.
And that's what started to happen. So when I was in college, I was always put in the ballet pieces, the technical pieces, the point pieces, when I believe that I have so much more to offer that I want to do. I wanted to do hip hop. I wanted to do jazz. I wanted to do jazz funk, all of those styles. But that comment just really messed with me because even to this day now, I'm, you know, in a different style class than ballet. And I'm like, do I look like a ballet dancer right now?
Right.
Like, am I too technical? Do I
No.
need to loosen up? Just because I had heard it so many times.
Yeah.
But the way that she said it to me was just so matter of fact, to the point. Like,
In front of everyone.
everything you do looks like ballet.
And same
And then
thing,
she said,
they didn't
"Oh,
think
I'm
about
sorry."
it
And then
after
she
that.
said, "Fix it." I was like,
maybe
I don't
give-
even know
maybe
what
she
to
can
say.
give you corrections because she's the teacher.
Maybe you could give me a couple tips. I don't know. Like, I'm paying a
'Cause
lot
that's
of money
not
for
even
school.
a critique. That's
No.
just like
It's a rude
her
statement.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a statement, it's her opinion.
Yeah.
That was not a critique at all.
So that really just kind of ties back into what we're saying about like dance teachers being toxic. You need to be careful as a teacher with what you say
Right.
because words hold value. At the end of the day, like, we are students. We all are receptive of what the teacher says. So we're going to soak it up like a sponge,
Right.
good and the bad.
Right.
So why not give everybody all the good, you know?
Right.
I think being productive with, what's the word? Corrections. I think being productive with corrections is important. You don't need to blatantly yell at your student or say like, you're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. You look awful doing this. Don't say that.
Right. We're not saying that critiques are bad.
No,
we encourage
they're good.
critiques and I want to get critiques.
Yeah.
But
there's a way to do it.
How you verbalize them to me, the words that you choose to say, it all affects how we take that correction.
Yeah.
Or
And
don't. Language is so important.
Exactly. There's so many ways that you can say you look like a ballet dancer when you're doing it. Like she could have worded that very differently. Just saying, oh, like
you could be a little more grounded and expand your arms.
Exactly.
Like there's just ways to say it.
Maybe she has some vocabulary issues.
Yeah, maybe that's it. So I think that even though we've all had negative experiences, we've also had some good ones with teachers. And it really just goes to show that you need to be a positive light for your students and teach with love and care and humanity, because that's what the students
because one
remember.
comment goes a long way.
It does.
It is. You have to be so sensitive with what you're saying in dance classes because you don't realize how malleable these kids are at the age that you're teaching them.
Regardless of age. And dancers absorb everything, good and bad. So even if you have a correction, just make it
Say
human.
it how you would want to receive it
Yeah.
as a young dancer, because almost all dance teachers should have grown up dancing, and they will know that they would not have wanted to receive a comment that way. And like, look at me, like this comment has stuck with me for 8 years.
Dance is
and I still
hard.
think about it.
Yeah.
So choose your words wisely.
Dance is hard as it is. So if you have a negative teacher on top of it, it just makes it 10 times worse. You know,
Right.
We're all working hard. We're all trying to be better dancers, better humans, and perfect our technique. So if we hear negative comments thrown at us, I think that just defeats the whole purpose.
And keep in mind, like this could be a whole nother episode, but dancers are I don't want to group all of us in, but like a lot of dancers have a lot of confidence issues and insecurity, and we don't need anything to add on top of that because we are already so hard on ourselves that we don't need even more negative comments to make it so much worse.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of dance teachers use the idea of like pushing dancers down because they're worried to like deal with dancers with like egos and stuff. But like from my experience, I've never had like an ego. Like I've never thought I was good.
Same.
Because
I think we have all kind of been in that boat, you know,
Yeah.
like you have your moments of, oh, I'm good. And then, oh, I'm not.
I think teachers try so hard to like fix dancers' egos or like try to like overcompensate so they don't have an ego.
Right.
That they end up like smashing their confidence like altogether.
That was a lot to unpack. Glad we did it though.
Yeah. And I think that helps us get to know each other a little bit more.
I would
'Cause
agree.
I actually did not know some of those things about you guys.
Same.
So
Totally. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and stay tuned for the next episode
Of Barre Chat.
bye guys.
Oh my God, so excited.